Hello and welcome to Geekatplay Studio Tutorials. Let's exploring terrains inside of dv11, and other terrain what I want to look it is procedural or fractal terrain. The reason is why we call fractal because it's using actual fractals to driving the creation of this terrain. The nice things about this terrain, the procedural terrain, that resolution is changed depending how close you to the camera. So you can preview right here. You can see closer to the camera we have more details, and more far away like on the back we have less details. The reason is why it's important because our terrain calculating how closer it is rendered, and the closer it is the more details will render. So it's fractal. The closer it to fractal, to more and more created. What is nice about this, we'll take camera for example. You can see how much details we have right here on preview, and let's bring the camera closer and closer and closer to the ground. If we do with a standard terrain, we start losing resolutions, but you notice right here we still have it very nice, very lot of details, very good resolution. So let's bring them in closer to the point almost, and you can see we still have an unbelievable amount of details. And if we look around, it is details in this area, but we start losing in other places because it's more far away from the camera. The procedural terrain that can deliver a very great resolution, very nice effect with a draw with them versus standard terrains, that they will, when you render, they need to recalculate. So they will be changing, they'll be modifying, and it'll take a little bit more render time, but not significantly, so you don't kind of need worry. In many, depend on what you're doing. In many ways, I'm using standard terrain when I know I don't need these high resolution terrains, and I'm just placing over ecosystem will cover anyway. But when you create mountains, sometimes the only effect you can achieve it's with procedural terrain, with this precision of working. So let's right now zoom out. We'll take our camera. Let's look what we're speaking about procedural terrain. To access this, we need to go edit this object. So right click, and I'm going right here and select edit object. Right here, we inside the terrain editor. In many cases, it's similar as a standard terrain editor. So we'll have a different type of the terrain, standard, switch between procedural standard, infinity. This is different for the procedural, so we can increase to the infinity, and we'll look on this in an infinity terrains tutorials. Skin only, symmetrical. We can also frame, top view if we need it. We can enable to view entire scenery, for example, if you have a preview on your camera. As well, if we have any other object placed, we can preview them, which is very helpful when you're molding terrain around them. Okay. We also have a wireframe, speculars, so for the lighting, if you want to preview this way. Materials, we can enable clipping range for the working, copy, paste, undo, redo, zoom in and out. Beside those ones, of course, you can also use it shift right click to pan around, control right click to zoom in and out. As well, you can use it your mouse scroll button for this, and you can just right click and rotate. You can also increase resolution, decrease. It's one effect, the render resolution. This will affect only preview resolution in a screen, so for the procedural terrain. Next, we also have option of the resizing terrain. Currently, it is applied to 56. It's more applied with the standard again. Resampling, we have an equalization, invert. So if you want, for example, create lake, this would be a nice way to do it. We can apply some filters options in a standard. So right here, disable. We have it also read apostrophe, so it will take it and reapply skin better if you molding in 3D. And actually, if you work with a procedural terrain, that work a little bit better because the function will rework resolutions. We can also extend the terrain canvas if we need it, stretching, work in 2Ds, and procedural material preview as well options. On our left bar, we have the same. We had reset. We can apply 3D sculpting reset if we applied any. Reset 2D if we have it. We also can reset materials if we apply it otherwise. This is option work a little bit different than standard zero edge. Right now it's zero edge. And actually if you click on standard, it's kind of, you remember, starts moving. On this case, it's actually removing. So you can create with no zero edge if you disable, like terrain. In some cases, if you put a camera, it's create a very nice look. Or if you want to create it with zero edges enable, and it's kind of smooth them down, create more like a single mountain look. You also have options for additional effect, the mountains, icebergs, except right here when you notice the moon craters you don't have in this. I have different tutorials how to create with procedural, so you can check those tutorials as well. And you notice in the procedurals you don't have it picture import, additional options, and back to the height field. So those is disabled, they're available only for the standard terrains. On our right side, we have it same as in a standard. We have it brushes, so we can work with brushes. We can create custom brushes modified. And we have it also same tab as effects. However, we have two new tabs. We have a procedural tab, so we can work with functions, and we have zones. The first on the procedural tab, it's where we can manipulate with a function that applied to create special shape for our terrain. Let's go ahead and reset this function. You can also just double click after if you don't want to create and preload it already created. For example, let's go select blur. So you can see we applied a blur effect as well. We can go and edit function, so we can create our own. And when you create it, you can start utilizing the newest function that was upgraded and used in dv11. So let's go ahead and create this. I select altitude and I will create a fractal to this. So I'm going to use a terrain fractal version 2. Nice things, if you move on the side, you can right click on your screen and you can see modifications. Let's disable edges so we can preview. One thing, it's look a little bit lower because I want to rework on meta scale. It's currently set 40. I will set 5 and large features to 5, so it's bring a little bit better effects. You can previews. Okay, next we also have options to the smaller features. It's a minimum to 0, so you have a teeny tiny, and we have a base roughness. This is kind of will affect how rough, how sharp edges, and again how much effect will increase. So if we want to pop up to 2, you can see right here we're kind of increasing those mountains and gain. So if you think they're a little bit flat, we can add it this way. Next we have it overall the turbulence that we applied, damping gets some effect, like lines. And you can refer to terrain the complete guide. We have a tutorials on the Geekatplay for more details on all these functions, how they work in terrains. If we try to look over in these tutorials, we require a lot of time to go over it. It's very complex and very extended and very flexible system. So the ground aspect, we have rocks altitude. So well, let's pop up a little bit higher for the rocks. Okay, you can see increasing. Log depression, maybe a little bit more. Okay, so we have right here preview. As well, we have the ability to also embed it strata. Instead putting filter itself, we can just, let's enable strata right here, and it will add those layers of the mountains. We can spacing offset, maybe pop up a little bit and string a little bit higher. So we'll have a little bit better effect on strata. Again, one thing with the increasing capacity, it's only for the preview. So we click on increasing preview, you can see a little bit better strata this way. And again, if we go on default, kind of hard to see. Sometimes you want maybe pop up a little bit higher, so you can see better those details and sharpness of so far. I kind of like how it's come up, so I'll leave it like this. Let's decrease list 1 down for the speed. Okay, we also can increase the second output for the rough areas, but leave it as default. Bump search rock, let me just leave it more. So let me preview again.
Can preview on the rocks, see how hard they are. Soil thickness, let's increase that one pop up. So we'll have it overall cover on the rocks. Maybe the rocks a bit too high in our soil. So you can think it's soil and rocks kind of important. The next things when we create it with function editor, we can link this to the material. So what I want to do, I want to click somewhere on an empty spot, right click and select custom dependency. So we'll go to create custom dependency for this. I'm selecting, and you notice it's gray color because it's not yet connected, so it doesn't know to what connect. And we can connect to any place, but I'm going right here, select, and next I'm going to select rough areas. You notice we have altitude, rough areas, and very rough areas. So I'm going with rough areas. You can preview. We can also select one more dependency. Oops, okay, let me create right here actually, and connect this one to very rough areas, so you can preview the different. Okay, and let's just name it rough areas for this, and very rough areas for another one. We'll go and click OK, and this is we modified. So let's before we do continue look on zones, what I want to do, I want to actually add some materials and we'll preview what we do. So we'll click OK. Get arrow terrain. The one thing with terrain is notice kind of flowing because overall height. To bring down, you can go and just bring all the way. If you press drop, it's kind of still will go drop only to this edge. The tip, what I like to do, I'm looking on a map above, and I'll bring down till you see start disappearing. So you can go bring up around here. This will give me about right position. Again, if I go down, it's maybe go below ground. So be sure when you do this, you do with something that you kind of done already. Maybe we'll go adjust. Maybe bring a little bit higher this way. I'm just looking on terrain so I can preview kind of nicely with the rocks. Okay, next what we're going to edit materials. And the reason is why, so we can see when terrain, what is output provide on us with those rough areas. And first I'm going to create sandstone. Click OK. We'll go edit function. And right here what I'm going to do, it is enable external dependency. We'll go select to procedural terrain and we'll go to enable rough areas. Next, let's from the filter connect to this point. So you see how it's applied. Now we have it rough areas, apply, control it by color. One thing I want to inverse, I want the darker and lighter. So I go on the filter and switch from my filter to opposite. You see how it's changed currently. So this is one way. Next, let's add, this is sandy look and I may modify this. We'll see how it will go. But I want to add maybe gray more to the rocks. So I'll create new layer. And for this layer, just find some gray material, maybe even default will work just fine with this. Default is the mixed material, so I'll switch, I don't need green, and I'll go switch this to simple, so we'll have it darker. We'll set to 0 on alpha, and alpha production is why I want to work. So I'll right click, edit alpha for the rock. You see it does not connect it. I'm going to add, okay, right here, external dependency. Set this to the procedural terrain, very rough area. I'll take alpha and just connect to this. You can see right here we have it, but again we need inverse because some color. So for this I'm select the node, click, and convert that filter to opposite. You can see now we have it very rough for the rocks display. Click OK. And next what we can just slightly decrease alpha, see when it's preview. Click OK, and let's preview this. Okay, right here you can see we have it effect applied with the terrain editor. So our rocks, we can switch them maybe from this color to different. So we can go anytime on materials, select, and easiest way to just reapply different map. So we can look dark veins or rust. So let's look on this one first. Okay, we can preview its look this way. Select right here. So this one maybe look a little bit better. I'll leave it on for now. And again, because nice about Procedural Terrain, you see how they were driven. The next things were done with standard. When you remap it, you can also link, but not as in this case. So for example, if I go right here and I says, let's edit this object, and this is driven by Fractal. So I'm going inside my procedurals, edit, right here. And for example, if I says, you know what, maybe I want to add a little bit more rock roughness. So I add rock roughness. You can see how it's increasing, decrease soil thickness a little bit. Okay, maybe add a little bit more of a base roughness to this. Click OK. So it's changed some roughness, but we connected to our terrain. And now if I still render, because we connected to procedurals, you can see how it's changed. It's add more details with the materials. So this is bonus and benefits with the procedural terrain. You can change, you can map it, and it will be kind of linking this way. So it's nice about this. Let's look more on the terrain engine. So this is where you work with the procedurals to function. You can switch scale, you can increase, decrease scale. For example, let's put to 0.4. Okay, right here. You can see we reduce quite a bit resolution for this. Okay, we can go back to 1. As well, we can work on a filter on the heights, mapping mode, shadows different, and quality boost for the render. So it will be calculating a little bit better, more details when we start doing this. Now, next up is the zones. So let's look on this one in our next tutorial.